Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Weekend Edition Sports Frenzy 2.0. I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane, taping here on the 11th of August. This will hit Saturday morning, the 13th. I'm flying solo this week. The Conquistador got overwhelmed with his schedule. He is a man of the people. He is out there helping the church groups, the community groups. And I'm not kidding. He does a lot of stuff for a lot of different people. So, of course, I'm last in line. I am the lowest priority. And, of course, all I've got is everybody out there in podcast land. So I'm here for you each and every week, no matter what. Going to try to save some of the reviews we promised for next week so we can get Dave's input. But what the hell kind of a show would it be if we didn't at least cover 75% of the things that we promised you? And that, of course, starts off first and foremost with music, rock and roll, album, and single reviews. Like I said, I'm going to hold off on a couple of these for next week. But I will give you my review of the new Jack White album, the second he has put out in 2022. This is Entering Heaven Alive. We all knew this was going to be a more mellow, more acoustic project for Jack White after Fear of the Dawn. And again, I seem to say this too much lately. Maybe it's because I'm just getting too old. The movies and the music especially. TV, streaming, still vital, still getting great storylines, still seeing the heights of creativity when it comes to a lot of the shows we're seeing on all the different streaming platforms. But movies right now could be at the lowest point I have ever seen in my life, and music isn't that far behind. Take Jack White's second album of 2022. Please. Huh. Yeah, old school humor. If he had combined Fear of the Dawn and Entering Heaven Alive, he might have been able to put together one outstanding album. But as it is, he's yet another self-indulgent solo artist. You guys know I've talked about this in the past. Some of these solo guys, Sting comes to mind, Jack White obviously, need somebody, anybody in a group format to restrain them, to keep them from going off on tangents that will ruin the project they're working on, ruin the reputation of the group as a whole. Please tell me you don't think anything Sting has done as a solo act is better than when he had Andy Summers and Stuart Copeland reining him in. One of my favorite guitarists of all time is Mark Knopfler. Mark Knopfler's solo career has been dull as dirt. Doesn't matter if they're the de facto leaders of the bands or the groups they're in, just somebody there. With Jack White, it would be Meg White. Anybody there who they've got to be held accountable to seems to bring out the better aspects of the lead performers. And when they go off on their own, it all falls apart, or at least we get mediocre material, self-indulgent material. Entering Heaven Alive, again, I knew going in I was not going to be overly impressed. I just had that feeling, and you can say I went in already thinking I was going to hate it, and that's fine. Preconceived notions are not good. I'd heard about 3 or 4 of the songs off the album before it came out. Those I actually didn't hate that much. Didn't love them, but didn't hate him that much. I'd heard Queen of the Bees. I'd heard Love is Selfish. I'd heard If I Die Tomorrow. But with the exception of the goofiness of Queen of the Bees, the rest of the album just sounds so similar. Song after song after song, all of them sound the same. You could probably pull out song 5, I've Got You Surrounded with My Love, little bit harder. A little bit more blues and jazz and funk involved in that song, but the rest of the album just sounds painfully dull, painfully carbon copy. Those of you who've listened to the White Stripes know that he would take these little self-indulgent tours every album for a song or two, but they fit most of the time within the structure of the heavier rock that the White Stripes put together. An album of this stuff is just not fun. It is just boring, and I'm not criticizing Jack White's musical chops, his musical knowledge. Obviously, there's everything but the kitchen sink here. There are pianos, xylophone, strings. At times it sounds like ragtime, vaudevillian almost. That doesn't make it fun. It doesn't make it interesting. I have to give Entering Heaven Alive a weak two frenzies. I wanted to give it 1.5, but again, I acknowledge the production values, the craftsmanship that went into the album. There are good songs in here somewhere, but again, if you just shook up the template, changed things up a little bit, and this is what I can't stand about Jack White's solo career to date. To me, he has been an absolute snooze fest as a solo act. I love the Raconteurs, and again, he's in a group structure. That's why the Raconteurs are awesome. Not a fan of the Dead Weather. But Jack White needs structure. Jack White needs somebody somewhere, whether it be his sister / ex-wife / drummer Meg, to tell him what to do or to kind of nudge him away from certain indulgences. It's just another disappointing solo trip for Jack White. And I know he's talented, and I know he's a genius when it comes to music. And I respect him, and I admire him, and I know one day he will be in the Rock Hall of Fame. But his solo career, much like that of Sting, much like that of Mark Knopfler, pales in comparison to what they did when they were in a group dynamic. All right, moving on to better stuff. Much better stuff. Going to give you 4 song reviews this week. As I mentioned, going to hold off on a couple of the ones that Dave and I promised you till he gets back next week. One of these going to be tricky because it's the second single off an album we're going to review next week. So Dave won't review the song. He will help me review the entire album. Collective Soul's new album, Vibrating, will be out by the time you hear this. It comes out Friday, August the 12th. Of course, as always, this hits Saturday morning, which would be the 13th. So next week's Weekend Edition we will review Vibrating, the entire album from Collective Soul, but I will go ahead and review the second single, Cut the Cord. First single, All Our Pieces, was poppy, catchy, but nothing spectacular for Collective Soul. They never let you down. They're always dependable, but there are levels. Even the most tepid, generic Collective Soul is better than what you're going to get from 99% of the bands out there. And that's kind of what All Our Pieces was. Now, Cut the Cord, the second single, and I believe the lead-off track from the upcoming album, Vibrating, much, much better. Punkish, fast, rockin'. One of the harder rocking songs we've heard from Collective Soul in a long, long time. Absolutely love Cut the Cord. Looking forward to Vibrating. Cannot wait for the album. Cut the Cord gives me more hope, as we've always talked about here on Sports Frenzy. Look out for the second single. The second single will either give you hope or make you depressed, depending on how you felt about the first single. We talked about that with Ozzy Osbourne. Now we're talking about it with Collective Soul. Cut the Cord gives me great hope that Vibrating will be yet another fantastic effort from Collective Soul. The first single, finally, after waiting months and months for word on this new album from Sammy, Hagar, and The Circle, Crazy Times, we finally get the first single, the title track. Crazy Times is an awesome, cool song. Little bit different, not way off the tracks, not off the rails, but a little bit more interesting, a little bit more subdued, a little bit more thoughtful. Now, if you look at the album cover, which is out there, been released along with the single, obviously, Sammy's in a way trying to talk about all the insane, stupid things that we've put up with here over the last 3 or 4 years across the world. The song Crazy Times doesn't necessarily get that deep. It's more of a structured, mid-tempo, intense rocker. It's very exciting. Very good first single. Again, like we talked about, we get a great first single here from Sammy and The Circle. Hopefully the second single will not let us down. The album is still about a month and a half away. Crazy Times gets 3.5 frenzies for me. And by the way, Cut the Cord, 3.5 frenzies as well, as I believe I forgot to actually give you my review, my final score. Moving on to a couple bands that I love, so I'm sure Dave isn't going to miss getting able to discuss these two bands. I don't think these are two of his favorites, but they are two of my favorites. So first up, King's X. Second single, again, notice the pattern. Second single from their upcoming album. They have been gone for quite a while. Second single is Give It Up. Give It Up is a straight, full-on rocker. Not really much in the way of deep messages. This is just a propulsive, catchy song. Turn it up in your car. You won't be disappointed. I give this a 3.5 frenzies. And I think the first two songs off King's X's upcoming album, they have both been fantastic. Of course, Let It Rain was the first single. I cannot wait for the new King's X. Give It Up, second single again. 3.5 Frenzies, another awesome effort from King's X. And finally, second single, again, the pattern is there. This one is the one that's letting me down a little bit when it comes to the reviews of singles this week, not the album, of course. I've already told you about my utter disappointment with Jack White, but after a great run, Collective Soul, Sammy, Hagar, King's X, all 3.5 Frenzies, I've got to drop down to 2.5 Frenzies, and this really disappoints me because I was not a fan of the lead-off single, the title track from Alter Bridge's upcoming album, Pawns and Kings. Again, I can forgive a mediocre first single, which is what Pawns and Kings was, and I am a huge Alter Bridge fan. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt anytime, every time I can. Second single is Silver Tongue. And I just still am not getting a tremendous, awesome, classic Alter Bridge vibe from these two songs. Now, that being said, I will stick by what I said about Collective Soul earlier. Mediocre Alter Bridge is better than 99% of anybody's best efforts out there. So Silver Tongue will get 2.5 Frenzies from me. Maybe it's because I'm too harsh of a critic, because I expect too much. But like Pawns and Kings, Silver Tongue just seems a little bit unfocused, generic, by the numbers. I'm not getting the catchy hooks. Usually, Miles Kennedy, Mark Tremonti, they know how to put out a rocking, memorable song. Look back at their discography. Their albums are full of fantastic songs that stick in your head and will not let you go. Pawns and Kings and Silver Tongue, I'm not getting it yet. And I listened to both songs multiple times. I'm talking 10, 12, 15 times each. And they are not those kind of songs that once you hear them 3 or 4 times, they start to ingratiate themselves into your music psyche. That's what's got me worried. So, we shall see how the new album from Alter Bridge plays out here when it comes out in a couple months. But again, Silver Tongue, I can only give it 2.5 Frenzies. Next week in our music segment, hopefully, possibly, maybe the Conquistador will be back. If he is, fine. If he's not, fine. Either way, you will get my review of the new Collective Soul album, Vibrating. David Lee Roth. Nothing could have stopped us back then anyway. His short but sweet tribute to Van Halen. Bush is More Than Machines. Their new album, The Act of Survival, will be out October the 7th. It may sound awful, but I like me some Bush. Also, one that kind of slipped by, coming out August the 19th. When you hear this, that will be 6 days away. Friday, August the 19th, Jackal, one of our favorite bands here on Sports Frenzy. 30 Coming in Hot is the new album. I say new with some trepidation. 3 new songs. The rest of it's a live album. 30th anniversary of Jackal. You know we're going to try to see them, as we always do, on Black Friday in Indianapolis each and every year. The last few years, of course, have been a mess thanks to COVID. But we're looking forward to the family reunion and hearing some of the new songs. Of course, Dave and I have already discussed Get All Up in It now. The second single out of the 3 new songs is Another Round. And we will try to review that for you here. I'll try to review it for you next week because, again, we'll probably end up reviewing the full album in 2 weeks. Even though I'm not a big fan of reviewing live albums, with the 3 new songs, we might make an exception for the mighty Jackal. Once again, 30 Coming in Hot, 3 new songs, plus a bunch of live tracks. Coming out August the 19th from Jackal. The second single is out, Another Round. And, of course, next week, Dave and I will have our reviews of the Stadium Tour. Motley Crue, Def Leppard, Poison, Joan Jett, and Classless Act. We will indulge in that next week, and we will have a full review for you on the next weekend edition. Finally, unfortunately, to wrap up the music segment, some bad news. Feel like we dodged a bullet on this one because we were really considering buying tickets to go see the Scorpions and Whitesnake tour. It wasn't really going to be anywhere close by, but it was on the outer edges of our preferred driving range for concerts. We've seen Whitesnake before. Dave and I have seen Scorpions before. But we were going to bring in a larger group of people who had not seen one or both of the bands before. And of course, this is the farewell tour, supposedly, for Whitesnake. Unfortunately, David Coverdale, we talked about a month or 2 ago, they're having issues over in Europe and had to cancel the European leg of this tour. Now, David Coverdale has respiratory issues that are going to force Whitesnake to drop out of the Scorpions tour completely here in North America. I would hope that once David Coverdale is healthy, of course, that is the paramount focus. That is what we should be worried about first and foremost, that he gets better, that this isn't that serious, that it's something that just rest, relaxation will help get him over. And maybe Whitesnake goes back out again in 2024, maybe even late 2023, and sets up a new farewell tour, because I would hate to see Whitesnake go out like this with basically a whimper. And that'll do it for segment 1, our music segment of the weekend edition here on Sports Frenzy 2.0, taping August the 11th. This will hit, as always, on Saturday morning August the 13th, to get you through your weekend, let you know what to listen to, what to avoid, so you lead a happier life, because that's what we are here at Sports Frenzy, a public service just for you. Next up, TV and streaming news. I'll let you know what I've been watching here over the past week, plus a lot of interesting fallout from this whole Warner Brothers, HBO Max, Discovery Plus merger, earnings report, cost-cutting measures that they're putting in place. And of course, Disney has got to jump on the bandwagon when it comes to screwing the consumer, jacking up prices, giving you less for more. I'll fill you in right after this quick promo, kids. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Hello, this is Will Smith. You might know me as the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You might also know me from Bad Boys 1, Bad Boys 2, and Bad Boys for Life. And now you must also know me as an Academy Award-winning actor for King Richard. Also by now, you know there are two things I do not like people talking about in my presence. Namely, my open marriage and my wife's lack of hair. Well, now there is a third thing you do not talk about in front of Will Smith. You do not talk about Sports Frenzy 2.0. My boys Kevin Dave will hit slap the sports world in Hollywood each and every week on Sports Frenzy 2.0 and the Weekend Edition on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, and Stitcher. Just remember, keep Sports Frenzy's name out your damn mouth.
All right, we're back here. Weekend Edition. Taping on August the 11th. This will hit Saturday morning, August the 13th. Flying solo this week. I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane. Glad to have you guys aboard as always. TV and streaming news for the week. Before we get to the things that I've been watching, let's talk about the things we won't get to watch. The things that I'm scared that are going to get canceled, because we're starting to see the fallout now from these big conglomerates, these big entertainment corporations, realizing they pushed so much money into their streaming services that people are, with the current economic situation the way it is, tightening their belts, budgeting their money a little bit better, a little bit more wisely, which means they're going to cut down on all the different streaming services out there. But do you think that stops Disney from trying to screw us over? You would be wrong, because of course the rat will find any and every way they can to hose us. Remember, we talked about the fact that Disney was going to add a version of Disney Plus with advertisements. Currently, the price for Disney Plus alone is $7.99 a month. I personally have that subscription. I don't care about Hulu. I don't care about ESPN Plus. Of course, we talked about the fact a few weeks ago that the price went up on ESPN Plus, $3 a month. If you listen to our regular Sports Frenzy podcast every Thursday morning, we discussed the price increase for ESPN Plus, part of this Disney bundle. I predicted, the Maestro predicted, that this was going to lead to a cascade of price increases across the board for Disney and their bundle. Look, wow, shocking. Kev was right. News came out today. Again, Disney's going to try to play mind games with all of us and tell us they're doing us a favor. They are screwing us. Starting December the 8th, you can keep Disney Plus for $7.99, the same price that you've got it for right now, high def, ad free. Oh, but guess what? The $7.99 version starting December the 8th will be the ad-supported version. So basically, if you want the same service you're getting now with your Disney Plus only subscription, you will have to pay an additional $3 a month starting December the 8th. That price will go up to $10.99. So they're actually basically tacking ads into your current subscription without any kind of price reduction whatsoever. Greed, greed, greed. In my eyes, this now makes Disney Plus one of the least affordable, worst values for your money when it comes to a streaming service. And I'm scared to death that all the others are going to follow suit. And now, what is Netflix going to do with their ad-supported version? I already can't stand what you get for the money right now with Netflix. I'm telling you, you're going to start seeing a lot of these services fold. And if the services don't fold, the stations, the networks behind them will. It's not sustainable. If Netflix, for their crappy standard definition feed, thinks they can get $10 a month out of me, if Stranger Things isn't on, they are sorely and sadly mistaken. Now, what are they going to do with ad-supported versions of their plan? You going to expect me to pay $10 for a standard definition feed with ads? You're out of your goddamn mind. People can't afford $10 to $15 for each and every streaming service. They just can't. Amazon has got a built-in additional benefit. They will survive. I'm not a big fan of their content. They have something interesting every couple months, but they also have free shipping. People shop on Amazon. So if you're paying $15 a month for a high-def feed from Amazon Video, plus getting free shipping on tens of thousands of items, and I'm not trying to sound like a shill for Amazon, but there's an additional benefit there that none of these other services, Netflix, HBO Max, Paramount Plus, Peacock, do not offer. So Amazon's going to be the first one to survive. You and I can guess, we can make assumptions, we can prognosticate, try to figure out who would be the next one to fall. I would imagine it'd be Paramount Plus. I don't think Netflix is on solid ground. I think they've spread themselves way too thin. I don't think their content is all that good. And again, like I said, everybody else at least offers a high-def feed for the money. The lowest tier, you get a high-definition feed. Netflix, standard definition. Netflix, kiss my ass. Now, of course, we got to talk about HBO Max, Discovery Plus, the Warner Brothers, the merger, the fiasco that has turned out to be this whole mess. The new president, the new man in charge, doesn't like what the former president, the former man in charge, did. So he is cutting, slashing. We already talked about Batgirl. We talked about Scoob. The first two big projects to get axed under the new regime. Now it's official that HBO Max and Discovery Plus will merge at some point next year, probably during the summer. Does that mean, again, prices get skyrocketed, prices get jacked up? I personally don't have HBO Max right now. I don't care about Discovery. I know a lot of people out there, a lot of you guys do. I don't. And if they want to jack the price up because they're adding Discovery Plus to $15, $17, $18 a month, you can count me out. Think about it this way. The one or two movies that I want to watch that might hit HBO Max, if it gets to the point where it's going to cost me that much for a monthly subscription, I can rent them for $5 and save money. I think that's what this is all going to help, is the rental business. As long as the rental prices don't go up. I'm telling you, these idiots in charge don't know what they're doing. They didn't know what they were doing when they pumped way too much money into these streaming services, and now they don't know how to compensate for it now that their investors, the stock prices, everything is turning against them. I'm worried about Doom Patrol, one of my favorite shows out there, TV streaming network. I don't know if they're going to get through season 4. I don't know if they're going to greenlight season 4. I know Titans season 4 is already pretty much in the can and done. Now, of course, we heard with Batgirl, that didn't matter. Batgirl, they'd already spent the vast majority of their budget, their money on it. It was already in post-production, and they said, nope, we're done. It's not going to see the light of day. There is a limit, and I agree. If I was running one of these streaming services, there is a limit to how much money I could put into original content. Netflix has gone crazy with some of the budgets they have put out there, the acquisition prices they have paid to get some of these projects. And every once in a while, they strike gold. The Gray Man was fantastic. Reviewed that for you here recently. Extraction. Now, you can have Red Notice. I wasn't overly impressed with that. I know people who love all the Adam Sandler stuff that he does for Netflix under his exclusive contract with them. You can have it. I don't care. But at some point, you're going to have to figure out a business model where you're combining the best of the old stuff, the back catalogs that people want to see, along with the maybe occasional new series that has a significant budget, significant star power to draw people in, and then shorter theatrical windows. Not everybody hated the Warner Brothers strategy last year, where all the theatrical releases were released day and date onto HBO Max. It was great for those of us who subscribed. Terrible for the company. Terrible. And it's probably why we're in the situation we're in right now with this Warner Brothers HBO Max Discovery mess. And one final note on that. Everybody knows one of my favorite writers, directors, culture critics is Kevin Smith. He was set to take part in HBO Max's adaptation of an old DC comic series called Strange Adventures. And it sounded like it would have been fantastic. Quirky, weird. I know he was going to at least write and direct one episode of the first season, but of course that has also been shut down by the new leadership at Warner Brothers. I'm just saying, kids, be prepared. If you're willing to shell out more money on top of your cable bill, on top of your internet, all these streaming services are coming now to make you pay the piper for paying reasonable, not cheap, but what I would say were reasonable prices for their services over the last year or two. Now they're going to say, now we're going to screw you. Taxes are going up, prices are going up, streaming services are going up. And you're going to have to make hard choices. I already know I'm getting rid of almost all of my streaming services if this comes to pass. If we start seeing $15, $18 a month from these companies, again, I can rent the 2 or 3 movies a month that they might get that I'm interested in and save money if the prices go up that much. Looking forward, as we have discussed previously on the show, to Justified City Primeval, the return of Timothy Olyphant as Raylan Givens. But they are filming in Chicago, and we all know that Chicago is a war zone. They've already had past issues with violence on the fringes of the set. Now, this past week, an incendiary device was thrown on the perimeter of the City Primeval set. Luckily, it did not go off. No one was hurt. All of our major cities seem to be in a state of absolute chaos and disarray. We have no leadership. Everybody wants to bitch and piss and moan and complain. Nobody wants to do anything about it. They want to talk about how much they hate the police. They want to talk about how much we mistreat the bad people, the criminals, the miscreants of society. Yet when it hits home, when violence and crime affect somebody personally, they're the first ones to say, where was my government? Where was my police force to help me out? Here's a bright idea. Support the police. Vote in smart, intelligent leaders. I know, few and far between. So stuff like this in Chicago, in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, in New York City, stuff like this doesn't happen if we do our part. Don't give in. Don't let the idiots currently in charge destroy our future. Speaking of idiots in charge, they found $5 million more in unrecorded expenses on the books at WWE. Of course, this is fallout from Vince McMahon, the CEO, ex-CEO, founder, guru, leader, mentor. You can't deny the fact the man created an institution, basically. He wasn't obviously the first one, but you could argue that he was the most profound, most prolific, greatest entrepreneur, leader when it came to the explosion of professional wrestling in the 80s and now all through to today. But again, great power corrupts greatly. So now we're up to almost $20 million in hush money, it looks like, that has been paid out over the years so Vince McMahon could have sex with wrestlers, interns, administrative assistants, and then pay them off so they don't say anything to the media, to anybody else. This is why I have been so disheartened this past week, so disgusted. We'll talk about it more here later on during the weekend edition. I'm so tired of Hollywood. I am so tired of celebrities. I'm tired of politicians. Nobody has any self-awareness anymore. Nobody has any self-discipline anymore. The good are few and far between in this world right now. Yes, Vince McMahon gave us happiness and joy when it came to creating a titan of entertainment called the WWF, now the WWE. But over the last couple weeks, I don't think it's really because of this, but I'm disenchanted with wrestling now. I had just gotten back into it. I used to love it when I was younger, in my teens and early 20s. I had just kind of rediscovered that passion for it over the last few years. I think it was more because of COVID. I think it was more because we were all shut in and locked in, and somehow wrestling figured out a way to keep going. WWE, of course, created the Thunderdome, where it was all video screens of people sitting at home watching the wrestlers. It helped keep the audience, the product, viable through the COVID period that we all just have barely survived and have barely gotten through. But I'm even disenchanted with wrestling now. It's not as fun. The rediscovered luster is kind of wearing off for me, even though I did enjoy the final match at SummerSlam a few weeks back. You got this with Vince McMahon thinking he can pull down his pants whenever he wants and just give a couple $1 million to the woman who's involved. While a lot of us out there, most of us out there, struggling to make ends meet, struggling to pay our utility bills, it just makes me wonder, makes me think, makes me a little bit more cynical each and every day. How could I be any more cynical, as you guys know? All right, I want to say something about a comment I made last week. We were talking about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I said that it was the best Marvel movie I have seen since Endgame. Now, you have to bear this in mind. I was talking about the Disney Marvel movies. I was not talking about Spider-Man. Of course, Spider-Man No Way Home, Sony Pictures product. And we'll have another Marvel Sony Pictures product to review here coming up in the final segment. But Spider-Man No Way Home is the best Marvel movie, technically Marvel movie, that's come out since Avengers Endgame. But I was referring to the Disney Marvel movies. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is my favorite of those. I have not been a fan of a lot of the product that the Marvel Studios, Disney conglomerate have put out since the rat took over Marvel, my beloved Marvel Studios. Again, more discussion coming in the third segment on that. And it's too bad Dave's not here because I came up with a great little nugget, a great little tidbit to bounce off him based on his review last week of Interceptor on Netflix. I don't know if he realized the fact he was talking a lot about the star Elsa Pataki. And then he mentioned that Chris Hemsworth made a cameo in Interceptor. I don't know if he realized, and I just had to do some digging on this. Elsa Pataki is, of course, married to Chris Hemsworth. That might explain the cameo. Duh. All right, what I'm watching to wrap up segment 2 here. I have finally started. It's almost a year old. You guys know how it is. Some shows you watch each and every week when they air, right after they air, within a day after they air. Some you kind of put on the back burner, and when you find time, you go for it. And that's what I did with 1883. Of course, 1883 is Taylor Sheridan's prequel to Yellowstone, the fantastic Paramount Network show, streaming on Peacock, believe it or not. Season 5 coming up, believe in November, late October or November, here in 2022. I've watched the first couple episodes of 1883. True blue Western about a wagon train moving from Texas out to the Pacific Northwest. Stars the great, and I say great, without exaggeration, Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott could read a cookbook and I would be there. Surprisingly enough, also stars country music's married couple, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, and they both do a fantastic job. Very surprised, very, very happy with their performances to this point. Couple cameos of note: Tom Hanks briefly, Billy Bob Thornton. Now, the focus of the show tends to be on the younger daughter of Tim McGraw and Faith Hill in the show, of course. It's the Dutton clan. If you watch Yellowstone, you know that's the ancestors of Kevin Costner's character. I'm not sure how I feel about her being the focal point. But 2 episodes in, the show is solid. I'll go back to what I said earlier. TV and streaming, the quality is there. It is not in the movie theater. It is not in recorded music right now. It's been like this for years and years, ever since cable companies started to create their own original content. That's how we got shows like Justified, shows like What We Do in the Shadows, Resident Alien, which we'll start reviewing for you, part 2 of season 2. Animal Kingdom, another show that's getting ready to wrap up, been on for 6 seasons. Phenomenal. So let's segue right into that. I can talk a little bit more about this since Dave's not here because he's trying to catch up. He just got through season 3 after I badgered him for months and months and years to start watching the show. He finally admits he's fully invested now, so hopefully he will catch up to get to the season series finale coming up here in a few weeks, along with me. Season 6, 10 episodes in right now. As I mentioned, there aren't that many episodes left. Things are starting to fall apart for the Cody boys. I will not spoil anything, but coming into the season, we always wondered, we always thought, we always were trying to guess who is going to survive, who is going to die. So far, nobody's dead yet. I don't see how that sustains itself over the last month or two here that we've got of the final season of Animal Kingdom. And then, last but not least, I did indulge in Disney Plus's 5 shorts. I Am Groot. Gave me a sense of childlike wonder. I was really disappointed in how short they really are. There's 5 of them, as I mentioned. They are only about 3 minutes each. You can blow through all of them in well under half an hour. Don't let what they tell you in terms of running time fool you, because there's some stupid rule now where you have got to spend the last half of a 6-minute short showing the credits in every possible international language. I've seen this on DVDs now recently. I've seen this on a whole bunch of different streaming shows and movies. Must be some kind of new agreement they've had with the International Writers Guild or Screen Actors Guild. Don't waste your time with the second half. It's not content. So you're looking at 5 really short shorts with Groot. They are cute. They are endearing. They are funny, innocent. I loved them. But again, is that worth the money you spend for Disney Plus? Movie review coming up next, kids. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Now that we've let you into Frenzy Club, here are 3 rules. 1. You don't talk about Sports Frenzy 2.0. You listen to it on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, and all other major podcast hosts. 2. 2 guys to a show. Kevin, Dave, the Maestro, and the Conquistador. 3. 1 Sports Frenzy episode at a time. Until Saturday, when you get the weekend edition. Now get in there and let loose on some PC wussbags, will ya?
All right, everybody. Time to wrap things up here for the weekend edition. Saturday morning, August the 13th, 2022. I am the Maestro, Kevin Crane, flying solo this week. My movie review for you this week is Morbius. I promised you I'd bring in some more Marvel content here. I think Morbius really got dealt a bad hand. I don't know if it was because of expectations. Maybe we're starting to get too much when it comes to these villain movies. You think about it, we've had 2 Venoms, we've had a Joker, we've had Harley Quinn. Everybody likes to root for the bad guy, but the bad guy has got to be exceptional in order for us to root for him, the bad guy or the bad girl. And if you look at some of these villain movies that we have dealt with, I am not a big fan of Venom. I didn't really particularly like the first one. I have not even watched Let There Be Carnage yet. I will eventually. Haven't really been a big fan of the Suicide Squad movies or the Harley Quinn movie with the Birds of Prey. It's very, very tricky ground to walk upon. We, of course, are now seeing that Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures are going to go nutsy, cuckoo, crazy here, flooding the market with Kraven the Hunter, Madam Web. You got Bad Bunny playing another, in my opinion, obscure Spider-Man villain. I'm old school, I'll admit it. I don't know who some of these characters are. I stopped reading comic books 20 years ago. I don't know who Madam Web is. I believe the character that Bad Bunny is playing is El Muerto. Don't know who that is. Now, I know who Kraven the Hunter is. Love Kraven the Hunter. And I've always said, next to Batman, Spider-Man has the greatest villains of any superhero in the comics in history. For all the accolades and all the popularity and him being the first comic book superhero, Superman has got the worst villains ever. And that's why I was never a Superman guy. It's why when I was growing up, I gravitated more to the X-Men. And of course, Spider-Man and Batman. So where does this lead us? This leads us into my review of Morbius. Morbius, his roots, I believe, go into the 70s. I don't think they go as far back as into the 60s. I believe Morbius came to be a Spider-Man villain in the 70s. Morbius, the living vampire, like Kraven the Hunter, long history in the Spider-Man universe. So I was very excited when I heard they were making a Morbius movie. Did not have a problem with the casting. And Jared Leto does a fine job playing Michael Morbius. Matt Smith, you guys know him as one of the actors who portrayed Doctor Who, plays the villain, Lucian, Milo, whatever you want to call him. He's got a couple different names in this. I will say this. As critical as I am, as much as I love to pick apart things, I rarely ever give anything a 4 frenzy. To me, that's got to be near perfection, whether it's a movie, a TV show, an album, a song. You've got to do something extra special for me to give you 4 frenzies. No, I'm not. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Morbius is 4 frenzies. Don't get me wrong. But when you look at the entire scale of things and how many movies I have watched lately, doesn't matter if they're popular, crowd-pleasing, popcorn flicks, or Academy Award nominees, I have just not had a good run lately of seeing quality movies. They've been few and far between. And again, I'm not saying that Morbius is a fantastic movie, but I think it's been undervalued in a lot of the reviews, both from critics and audiences. Now, what I will say is that its plot is bare bones. It's a recycled plot. It's a rehashed plot. But again, this is the origin of the character, Dr. Michael Morbius. scientist, rare disease, trying to find a cure. Only partially succeeds, and in some ways ends up making things worse. And you can even look within the Spider-Man universe. Dr. Kirk Connors, the Lizard. Does that ring a bell? Does that sound familiar, that whole storyline? Whereas Michael Morbius has a rare blood disease, of course, Dr. Connors was trying to find a way to grow back his limb. Very, very similar, though. And we've seen it outside the Marvel universe as well. And of course, you have the adversary who wants the secret, who wants to take the secret, use it for less than altruistic means. The power corrupts. Again, the plot here for Morbius is nothing we have not seen over and over and over again in movies in the past. But I thought it was actually done well. It's short. It's not one of these overlong Marvel movies that's 2.5 hours that you're going to have to slog through, that you're going to have to take multiple breaks. This is a nice, normal, compact running time. I thought the special effects were pretty good. There are occasions where they're a little overwhelming. But again, I'll just say, I don't know if I was just dying for something decent, and maybe I'm overrating it a little bit, but I really think Morbius is getting a raw deal when it comes to some of these reviews you're seeing out there. I will give Morbius 3 frenzies. I recommend it. I enjoyed it. Again, my personal opinion, and I thought it was better than the Eternals. I thought it was better than Shang-Chi, the most overrated Marvel movie of all time. Go back in our archives and look up my review of Shang-Chi. I love the character. Again, another character that came from the 70s when I was a kid. And I think they butchered it. I think they, for the most part, ruined it. He's the master of Kung Fu. He's not supposed to be riding awful-looking CGI dragons. But again, you want my full review, feel free to go back in the archives and look it up. I'm just saying Morbius was more entertaining, tighter. This was a good, fun, decent popcorn flick. I enjoyed Morbius, like I said, 3 frenzies. Now, I was supposed to have a second review for you this week, but I'm going to hold off on this till next week because I can't wait to bounce this one off of the Conquistador. I was just talking about how I've been so disheartened lately with critical darlings, Academy Award nominated movies, and I got sucked in again on another one. I always go, well, let me watch this one and see if I get this one. Nomadland, terrible. Power of the Dog, underwhelming. I get sucked in time after time after time, just trying to figure out what it is the critics see in these movies. And in this case, in the case of a lot of these movies, I know everybody out there, you guys understand a lot of what I'm talking about because I see the reviews on IMDb. You guys aren't pretentious. You're like me. You want a linear storyline. You can handle a decent amount of characters. You can handle a decent amount of plot complications, but we want a plot. We want a linear plot. And all of these stupid award-winning movies, from Nomadland to The Power of the Dog, and to my review for next week, Licorice Pizza. I just get so frustrated and just want to scream and yell at the movie gods and say, what am I missing? Am I the one that's missing it? Or are these people in Hollywood, in the press, in the media, so out of touch that they don't understand what it means to be normal when it comes to making a movie anymore? What it means to just entertain people anymore. So I'll save my rant on Licorice Pizza for next week. That leads us into our moments of silence. First up, veteran horror actor Clu Gulager. Please forgive me if I butchered it. No pun intended, but of course he was a star in many, many, many B-level horror movies throughout the 70s and the 80s. Part of the Motown writing trio, responsible for so many well-known songs and hits. The team of Holland, Dozier Holland. Lamont Dozier passed away this past week. And of course, thoughts and prayers to everybody that we mention here, their family and their friends and their loved ones. This is one where I really wish Dave had been here because I know he was such a big, big fan of the original Magnum PI with Tom Selleck. Roger E. Mosley, who played TC, the helicopter pilot on Magnum PI, passed away recently. And then finally, the big one here in our moments of silence. I don't have any of her music. I don't own any of her albums. Never bought any of her singles when I was younger, but she was influential. She was monstrous, especially when it came to the song Physical, was one of the biggest hits of the 70s and 80s. Olivia Newton-John, just amazing to me because she seemed like she was going to be one of those people that was forever young, despite her decades-long battle with cancer. She always looked vibrant, energetic. Of course, the star of the film adaptation of Grease with John Travolta, one of the most important movies of the 70s. I got a little story about Olivia Newton-John before we move on to the dumbasses of the week. When I was growing up, when I was a kid in elementary school, I believe I was about 7 years old at this time, give or take a year. I don't know if you guys remember what portables are. I don't know if they're still around, but we had our music class in a portable outside of the main school structure. And my music teacher at the time, she was a great lady, but naive to a certain point. Found a song that she thought would be fantastic for us to learn how to sing. She thought it covered a lot of the basic notes, the harmonies that we would want to learn in a basic music class. The song was Olivia Newton-John's Please, Mr. Please. Now, if you know that song, I know I'm going back a long, long time. We're talking 40 plus years. There is a line in the song where the character in the song is sitting at the bar and she says she's got a good Kentucky whiskey in front of her. Now, of course, people didn't go crazy, insane, nitpicking and censoring every little thing. So my music teacher thought she could get away with playing this song because, again, she admired the vocals, the harmonies, the notes. So she said, I'm going to play this song. But every time she did, she would sing at the top of her voice whenever the line came up about a good Kentucky whiskey. She would almost scream, good and healthy milkshake. And even back then, in the mid-70s, we weren't naive either. We weren't stupid. So, of course, all of the kids in class would just sing right along with her, and we would sing good Kentucky whiskey, and it would upset her and infuriate her to no end. But just one of those little story time moments with Uncle Kev. Fond memories of Olivia Newton-John. May she rest in peace. Now, unfortunately, we've got to get negative, as we always do at the end of not only the weekend edition, but our regular Sports Frenzy edition. And of course, check out our Facebook page and listen to us each and every week on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, Stitcher, Amazon, and Audible. Dave's not here, so we can't do the whole Stitcher thing. It just doesn't seem right. All right, first up. A lot of people upset, including John Leguizamo. Somebody's a dumbass here. I'm not saying it's John Leguizamo. I'm not saying it's James Franco, but whoever decided that James Franco would make for a great Fidel Castro, that director, that casting director, yeah, they probably make it to the dumbass list this week. James Franco playing Fidel Castro in a movie. Think about that. I'm not a big proponent of you've got to have a Hispanic person playing a Hispanic role. We've seen in the past, and I've complained about it, and I'll still complain about it. We've seen a lot of characters who are originally Caucasian, now portrayed by black people. That's okay. So you can't just draw the line wherever you want. But I will say, it does seem very odd and borderline a dumbass move to cast James Franco as Fidel Castro. Unless, of course, this is some kind of ridiculous Seth Rogen comedy, which it's not. Next up, I did not get to this last week. It's been out there for a couple weeks, but inflation, everything that's going wrong in our society, gas prices, food prices, supply chain issues, and of course now that means that Hershey's has come out and said, destroying the hopes and dreams of all the kids across the country. They will not be able to meet demand for Halloween candy or Christmas candy this year. Could you just lie? Could you just say nothing? How about that? So we go to the store, it's sold out. We're getting used to that. Do you have to come out in August? Do you have to come out in August and say, we're not going to have enough candy to make the kids happy on their two favorite holidays of the year? Do you have to destroy their hopes and dreams? Way to go, Hershey's. Whoever's in charge of public relations for your company is a dumbass and should be fired. Of course, we got a guy who keeps popping up here every month or so because he is a freak. He is a weirdo. He doesn't know how to properly interact with society, and that is Ezra Miller, otherwise known as the Flash, the cinematic Flash, as opposed to Grant Gustin, who plays the TV Flash. Ezra Miller is in trouble yet again, stemming from a burglary in Vermont from months ago, where he supposedly broke into a house, stole alcohol. Yet somehow he took enough where Vermont is going to charge him with felony burglary. With all of the issues that we've talked about here on this episode, with HBO Max, DC, Warner Brothers, the cost-cutting measures, is Ezra Miller trying to destroy not only his career, but the Flash franchise? The movie is still slated to come out next year, but you've got to wonder how many more PR hits can he take? Can DC, their film division, take with this idiot running around? Sorry, I don't care if he's gay, queer, non-binary. He's just a dumbass, regardless of sexual inclination. Speaking of somebody who thinks very, 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 very highly of himself, and I am not a fan in any way, shape, or form of this man and his music, Roger Waters. He's another one that keeps stepping in it. You kind of wish he'd never gone out on this current tour he's on, because all it's done is caused trouble for him in terms of his image. He lets his mouth run. He thinks he's the most intelligent man in the world. I got news for you, Roger. Listen to the transcripts from your interviews, your press conferences. You're a dumbass. We talked about a few weeks ago how he came out in the Canadian press because he wasn't happy with the coverage of his tour, because Drake and The Weeknd were both playing up in Canada at roughly the same time and got more press coverage. And of course, Roger Waters told the person interviewing him he was much, much, much more important than Drake or The Weeknd. Hey, Roger, it's not 1980. It's 2022. You're not more important than them right now. Not even close. Even I know that, and I don't listen to them. Now he comes out in a CNN interview, antagonistic with the interviewer. Basically implies that he loves Russia, he loves China, and he hates the U.S., and he hates NATO. Every concert, he puts up a graphic calling our president, Joe Biden, a war criminal. And believe me, I have no love for Joe Biden. But even I can't go as far as Roger Waters is going with some of the things he says about our president, blaming NATO and the U.S. for causing the conflict between Russia and the Ukraine. I just heard he played to a sparsely populated crowd in Ohio the other night. People are getting tired of your act, Roger. People don't want to be badgered with politics. You revel in it. You love it. You tell everybody who doesn't want to hear about your politics to get the hell out of the concert. And it looks like that's what they're starting to do. And I hope people who go see Green Day and Bruce Springsteen and Pearl Jam and Eddie Vedder follow suit. Finally, tragically, I never thought it would come to the point here on our dumbasses of the week where I would have to rip on someone who's lying in a hospital bed in critical condition, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. And Haish, if you haven't heard, number one, you live under a rock. But number two, Ellen DeGeneres' former paramour, lover, I don't even know, were they married? Wife, smashes into a parking garage and then smashes into a house. Car ignites, massive fire. She suffers major burns. As I said, in the hospital, on life support. I believe she's even in a coma right now. I don't know if it was induced. And I don't wish ill will on anybody except for the fact that she was on a podcast a few hours before this happened, bragging about, joking about, drinking vodka with wine chasers. Who could she have killed? We see the property damage. We know the property damage doesn't mean anything compared to the loss of life, but still, how reckless, how stupid. Again, Hollywood celebrities thinking they're bulletproof and they'll never get in trouble for things like this. She needs to be made an example of. And Alec Baldwin can kiss my ass for being the first one to go out there and support her. Wait until the information comes in, Alec. You should know better than anybody. I hope Anne Heche survives so she can spend a long, long, long time in prison thinking about who she could have killed and what kind of awful damage she could have done on top of what she did. I'm the Maestro. The weekend edition is done. Dave will be back next week. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. We will see ya. Bye.